last one, I think I said all the times for these. So what I will do is, I think I forgot to put the times in this one. So what I'll do is I'll put the time somewhere up here about where to look in the whole day 2 video and where to find these parts. Chris Roberts, Rich Tyler, Dave Haddock. I've already said those. Obviously, you know who Chris Roberts is. Rich Tyler's game director. Dave Haddock is the narrative director, and Ian Leyland was also part of this. And I've already talked about what his title is. This is probably one of the biggest ones. It's probably the one that most people were excited about, even though I think people were most excited about the Squadron 42 announcement, it finally getting a release date, which I think that date is playing it safe. I think I said that in the day 1 video. But one of the unique things that I loved about this is they explained what Star Citizen is. And for so long, it's so hard to explain it to people. Like, it's like if you go up to somebody and say, well, and they ask you what Star Citizen is, it's like, how do you explain that to people? And it's like, it's PvP. Now you could say it's PvP, it's PvE, and it's single player gameplay, all mixed into one as an MMO sandbox experience where you can also do instance level gameplay. Like, you could say that and you'd be right. Now, that's a more technical explanation. The way I like to explain it to people is it's Grand Theft Auto with a more serious tone, but in space. And then people just kind of get it. It's got nothing to do with, it's not Grand Theft Auto. You barely even drive vehicles and stuff, but it's Grand Theft Spaceship. Like, maybe people running around stealing your spaceships. I don't know. That's the way I explain it to people, because people automatically know what Grand Theft Auto is. They can immediately be like, oh, okay. And then you say it's more serious than Grand Theft Auto, so it's not as silly as Grand Theft Auto. Okay, and then you say it's an MMO, right? So, did I say that initially? I say it's Grand Theft Auto, but in space, as an MMO. That's my last part. I didn't say that. That's the way I explain it to people. If you know what an MMO is, like World of Warcraft, then, and you know what Grand Theft Auto is, then you could say, you know, maybe you say Grand Theft Auto Online. Maybe I'm thinking of a better way to say it. It's GTA Online, except in space with a more serious tone. There you have it, with MMO stuff in it. You know, I can add that at the end, but that's kind of what I'll be saying anyway, even though they explained it much better during this. Anyway, let's get back to it. Chris Roberts specifically said that fishing is not going to be in 1.0, which I'm not particularly bummed about. Like, I do want to fish in the game eventually, but I'm okay with that not being in 1.0. Like, there's going to be plenty of animals and stuff to go and find and hunt and all that stuff. We talked about animal hunting before. So they basically said, what is 1.0? They were trying to answer this question, but before they kept saying, well, people want to know what is 1.0, right? And then they went to something else. So then they talk about 4.0. They said 4.0 is server meshing and pyro, basically. And they said 4.0 is still alpha. So that means they're still adding tech, still adding features, still adding content. That's huge, because that means this is the last time they'll be adding tech, adding features, and adding content. Now, last time being like, this is the last patch where you can say that's the purpose of the alpha, is tech, features, and content. Everything from 1.0 on is full release of the game, and that's what they're sticking to. So it might be a while before we see 1.0, but we know if they're still in the 4 dot, it should go 4.0, and then it should go 4 dot all the way until 1.0. So we know once the 4 dots stop, we are going to full release. Now, be careful with the word full release. Full release does not mean that the game is coming out. It means minimum viable product. And minimum viable product, or MVP for short, is just, we are not resetting the game anymore. We're not adding major features, major technology, and major content to the game. And you can no longer restore to any previous version of the game. So you will be playing the game, but it could be at a bare bones experience and not necessarily have everything that 1.0 has in it. So think beta. It could still be beta. It could still be, even though minimum viable product is a different definition than beta, I'm just saying, if you can think of what a beta is, think of that. I don't think it'll be minimal viable product. I'm just saying it could be. And I don't think it'll be, I do think it'll have a beta phase, but I think the beta phase will be short-lived and it'll be just to get out the bugs. And then I think it'll go to early access. And I think early access will probably be the longest phase of the game, just to, again, get out the bugs and the kinks. But there won't be any resets or anything like that until the game starts. I think once the game goes live and it's out of early access, that's when the no more resets will happen. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting we go to like 4.5 or 4.6 or 4.7, whatever 4. Whatever goes to. Then we'll get, PTU versions of 1.0, and it'll stay in PTU version and it won't go to live. It'll just, when it's ready to go to live, they will pull the whole system back. The PTU system will end to some extent. And maybe it'll just be, wave 1 from now on. It'll be Evocati in wave 1 and that's it. And maybe like everybody else doesn't really get access to that anymore. Or maybe it'll just be Evocati. And then it'll just be, boom, here's the early access for 1.0, or here's the beta for 1.0. And then you won't be getting any resets. It'll just be, we're fixing bugs. And then boom, here's early access for 1.0. If you were playing the beta, you keep all your progress. And then boom, here's the actual release for 1.0, and this is the last reset. And I think that's kind of what we're gonna get. That's just my thought process for the whole thing, because that's why we watch this stuff. That's why we talk about this stuff. That's what we should do. We should like see what is our flavor of it. So when they talked about full release of the game, they said 4 things: improved performance, polished experience, finished gameplay loops, and no more resets. They talked about finished gameplay loops later. Improved performance is going to be a huge one, because right now a lot of people would say that the game is unplayable even at the 3.24.2 release. And then no more resets. I think people are just tired of restarting, buying all their stuff, restarting, buying all their stuff. So they talked first about what the 0 means. So they said, I think the 1 is the improved performance, polished experience, finished gameplay loops, no more resets. Then the 0 is the continued development, no more tier 0, and then higher quality benchmarks and it marks a moment in time. So continued development, it just means that just because they did 1.0 doesn't mean they're gonna stop working on the game. It means no more tier 0. They're not gonna give you some base implementation of a gameplay loop. It's gonna be the full, at the very least, it might be tier 1, as in they can do better, but it'll be the full implementation of the gameplay loop, and it'll be a higher quality benchmark because they're trying to, start you off with that gameplay, the full level of gameplay. Because like you could have an issue like what we had with refueling gameplay, right? We got a tier 0, kind of tier 1 experience. I don't know if that was tier 0. I would say it's tier 0, and then it kind of just disappeared, and then it like came back a little bit, and then so it was like, well, where is it? And then they kind of made it irrelevant. So I don't know, and then it seems like they're bringing it back because they're changing fuel prices and how much fuel it takes. So who knows? I would like for them to, if they're going to release gameplay, to leave the gameplay in the game. So I'd rather them just go straight to tier 1 if they're going to be taking tier 0s out of the game. All right, so then they talked about the Star Citizen 100 systems. I know a lot of people are going to be frustrated, and I know the people who hate Star Citizen are going to have a field day with this, because they're not going to watch the full presentation. They're not going to understand the idea of points of interest. They're not going to understand why 5 systems is better than 100 systems, but that's okay. Haters going to hate anyway, right? When they originally said 100 systems, those planets were going to be unexplorable planets. They were going to be isolated. They were going to have small landing zones. They would be automated landing, automated landing, so like what you see in the game like Starfield, and it would be like 4 POIs, right? Like 4 POIs in one system. So yeah, you can, go to all these 100 systems, but they're going to be sparse and not have very much in them. They were like, oh, we only have 90 points of interest for all 100 star systems. So that means there were going to be star systems where you'd go there and there's no place to land or no points of interest in that entire system. It's just going to be cool looking. So maybe it's a bunch of gas giants or something where you can't actually land on it. They were looking at Starfield, and they saw, and luckily for them, Starfield actually came out in a time frame where they could still change this. And they saw the way people looked at Starfield and were like, oh my goodness, it needs more of this, it needs more of that. We don't want an empty planet. We don't want, and they were like, okay, so everybody should be okay with what we're gonna do. Now, Rich Tyra didn't throw any shots, but the shots were heard. Shots were felt, even though shots weren't thrown to Starfield. So yeah. Starfield is, I still think, I like Starfield. I like playing it. I never thought it was going to be the same game as Star Citizen. So I think most people that don't like it were expecting it to be Star Citizen or something similar. But it's its own thing. It's a Skyrim in space kind of wannabe, but it's just not quite as good as Skyrim was, because I don't think the story is as good as Skyrim's was. But I digress. Anyway, now, they said there was going to be 90 points of interest in the entire 100 star systems when they originally promised it in 2012. Now, Stanton by itself is going to have 1,626 points of interest. Or I think they even said that's how much it currently has, not how much it will have. That's how much it currently has. And it'll be even more when Starkitect comes online. So if I would rather, so basically the Stanton system is like, if we're talking star systems and what they had planned to do, the Stanton system would be 1,600 star system or 1,600 star systems because of the amount of POIs that they have, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's not the same thing. Like you could promise 100 star systems and they could deliver a bunch of star systems if they wanted to, just to meet that promise, right? But they would be empty planets. And yeah, you get your 100 star systems, but they're just empty planets. You can't go there, you can't visit them. Because what if they gave you 100 systems and then said, well, you don't have the reputation to get there? And then they slowly release them as people reach that reputation level. Like, there's so many ways they could have got around giving you 100 systems. So it's better for them to just be straight up and be like, look, you don't need 100 star systems. We're gonna have so many points of interest in these 5-star systems that you won't even have to worry about it. So up to this point, they hadn't really talked about what the last star system will be, but I think I might have talked about it in another video. But they basically announced what the next star system will be. So Stanton, obviously, Pyro's next, then we're gonna get Nyx, and then we're gonna get Castra, and then we get Terra, which is huge because Terra is the first major system. Like, Stanton is big, don't get me wrong, but Pyro, I think, Pyro has a lot of planets, but it's, lawless. Nyx is kind of neutral, but it's near Vandal space. Castra only has 2 planets. And then I think actually Nyx only has 2 planets. Nyx only has 2 planets. I think Castra might have 3. Maybe both of them have 2. But Nyx also has Levski, which is in the asteroid. And then Terra is just massive. That's going to be a big deal when that comes in the game. That's where I actually want my home base to be, in Terra. I want most of the land that I own to be on Terra. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I can't wait for Terra. That's probably going to be my favorite system out of all the systems, even bigger than the solar system, our system where Earth is. I'm probably going to end up being a Terra loyalist because the things that happened on Earth, I think, made it a trash planet for me as far as history. So I'm going to say, let's go Terra and F Earth. F as in forget. So if you're wondering where my allegiances stand, I am firmly on Terra land. And that's where we should move the UEE. Well, I don't know. I got to look at the lore a little bit more, but I'm definitely more pro Terra than I am pro Earth at this particular juncture. So there you have it. Anyway, then they talked about what type of game Star Citizen is, right? Basically, when they talked about what type of game Star Citizen is, they were basically saying it's a sandbox MMO with a soft framework for a main story with cyclical gameplay and in-game content that is both a PvE, PvP, and single-player experience. Both. It's all 3 of those. So that's a very long way to say it, but it does describe what Star Citizen is if you're trying to say it in one sentence, but you really shouldn't explain Star Citizen in one sentence because it deserves more than that. So let's talk about what this soft framework is with the main story. They introduced professions, right? And this is a very heavy part of this video, right? So they introduced professions, they introduced guilds, and they said the guilds are what give reputation, purchases, guild affiliated rewards. So that's ships, that's blueprints, that's items. Then each guild rewards are different. So you're gonna get different guild rewards based on which guild you join. And then they went through all the guilds. So let's go through all of the guilds. Yes, I collected all of this information. I wrote it all down. I think this is really, this is something that maybe they kind of glossed over a little bit because they didn't really have enough time to go through all of it. I would love for them to do 2 full days of CitizenCon rather than the kind of rushed second day. But hey, they got to get back to work, I guess. Let's start with the United Resource Workers. So the United Resource Workers is the industrial guild. This is where you have the miner, the salvager, repair tech, the breakdown engineer, fuel gatherer, builder, refiner, and crafter. All right, so let's talk about what each one of those are. The miner, this includes FPS mining, ship mining, and ground extraction. Ground extraction. Now, the ground extraction so far from what we know is only available with a building that you build, and then you can extract things from the ground. I would look forward to there being a ground extraction ship in the future. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Odyssey ends up being able to do ground extraction to some extent. I would love to see it. I don't know if it'll happen, but I would love to see it. Salvaging. Salvaging, structural salvage, hull scraping, and component salvage. So structural salvage is breaking off the big chunks of the ship. Hull scraping is just getting the armor off of it and the plating off of it. Component salvage, I think, is very interesting. Component salvage, I think, is going to be you have to go into the ship and take the components out. And they all three are considered different types of components. You obviously can do all three in one go, but yeah. Anyway, the miner, that's all Shubin Interstellar. That's who you're going to be going to. So that is the profession is miner, right? And then the guild is the industrial guild. And then the company that will be handling that particular part of the resource workers is Shubin Interstellar. So if you're doing mining, you'll get a whole bunch of Shubin Interstellar gear, so prepare to be involved with them. Salvaging is Adagio Holdings. Then you have Repair Tech, which is 2 companies. Construction company does the repair infrastructure. United Wayfarers Club does hull repair. And then the Power Network Repair is construction company again. So I don't know if construction company is the final name. I just think it just says construction company. I don't know if that's the actual name of a club, but hopefully they figure out a name for that if that isn't the name. But construction company is a little bit on the nose. But anyway, repair infrastructure, right? So that means you're repairing lights, you're repairing power, you're repairing like stuff like that where it's important to make the city go, right? Or whatever, make the base go. Then you have hull repair. That's going to be working on ships, working on vehicles. And then you have power network repair. So I guess that's like you being an electrician, so to speak. Whereas the repair infrastructure might be like you repairing buildings and stuff like that. And maybe it's not like, necessarily working with electrical things. Whereas that would be more power network repair. So very cool. And why am I going through all of these? They are laying out what jobs will be available in Star Citizen, people. This is important. And I think they kind of like talked about it a little bit and kept it moving. But these are the jobs. We've all been saying like, well, I don't know what that gameplay is going to look like and so on and so forth. This is it, folks. They're telling you what the jobs are going to be. Pick from this list and prepare your ships accordingly. And like, this is drastically going to change the way I look at my fleet. I'm going to have to relook at my entire fleet now that I know what all the jobs are going to be. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. The next few weeks, next few months, going to be very interesting. Anyway, breakdown engineer. So this is towing and refueling. So basically, you either broke down because your ship got blown up or soft death or whatever, and it's beyond repair, or you don't want to pay for the repair because it's too much money. So then you end up towing it, and then it'll be if you ran out of fuel, obviously we come and refuel you out, and those are both the United Wayfarers Club. Then there's fuel gatherer, so that's both hydrogen and quantanium, and it looks like those will both be Shubin Interstellar. If not, then I'll put an extra name up here. Quantanium might be different. I think they're both Shubin Interstellar though, but if not, I'll put the name up there. Then builder, which this is me. Obviously, they're talking about me. They just make my character just, you know, do the hair and make the person who runs Cornerstone Developments be like me. You know, I'm cool with that, CIG. You know, I haven't signed away the likeness rights yet. But as long as you let me do the voice for it, and they look exactly like me, and you know, I'm paid a reasonable amount, then I would say that you can have those rights to that, because, you know, I just want to be in the game. Anyway, builder there will be two different ones. There'll be buildings and space stations. So we'll get to space stations in just a little bit. Space stations is going to be heavily involved with org gameplay. So, but building buildings, you're going to be working with Cornerstone Developments, so that'll probably be my primary person or company that I deal with. Refiner, only one job, refining those materials, Shubin Interstellar. Then there's crafter, so then you're working with, if you're doing equipment and components, you're working with Voyager Direct. If you're crafting vehicles and ships, it'll be Astro Armada. So pretty good that they're bringing Voyager Direct back. I think that used to be the name of something where you could buy stuff. I can't remember exactly what you could buy, but I wasn't around. I joined like a year or two after that went away. Interstellar Transport Guild. Now we're moving on to a different guild. This is the Cargo Guild. We're no longer in the Industrial Guild. I'm glad that they're making the distinction between cargo and industrial. I'm glad they're making that distinction between Interstellar Transport Guild being Cargo Guild and having a separate Industrial Guild, and not just looping cargo under the Industrial Guild. It gets its own thing. Because I do think there's enough differences in the type of cargo jobs to justify its own guild. So you'll have the recovery expert. So they'll be getting recovery cargo, and that's Red Wind line haul. Now, recovery cargo is, I think, when somebody, either cargo got lost or stolen, and you're going out to get the cargo back and bring it back, whether it's lost or stolen, or maybe it's not lost, they know where it is and they're just sending you out to go get it. Then you'll have the trader, two different types of trader, and they're gonna be working with Tyrer Trading Corps. So I think we know what type of gameplay Rich Tyrer's favorite is, because he named the Trading Corps after himself. So you got transport and sell, and then you got buy and deliver. Now, transport and sell is like, we're gonna give you this and you gotta give us 20% of whatever you make, or you gotta sell it for at least this much because we want exactly this much. Now, maybe you sell it for more and you make more. Maybe you sell it for this exact amount and then you have to give us all the money. We don't know, but that's your job. Then there's buy and deliver. Now, buy and deliver can be what you can buy from anywhere and deliver anywhere, but if you're working for the Tyrer Trading Corps, you're gonna have to buy from where they tell you to, or deliver to where they tell you to, or maybe both. Maybe you have to buy it from here and deliver it to here. But there might be ways around, like forcing you to buy it from a place or forcing you to deliver it to a certain place. But I think the idea is like, maybe it'll be like we only deal with 5 different places, and as long as you get it from one of those 5 places, we don't particularly care. And as long as you deliver it to this location, we don't care where you got it from. So that's the way I think it'll kind of work, as long as it's not marked for, like, the cargo you're delivering isn't marked for as stolen or something like that. Maybe that's it. And then they have the hauler. So the hauler is cargo delivery. The hauler is cargo delivery. That's your straight up, take it from here to there. You don't purchase it, you don't buy it, you don't do anything except transport it. We have a bunch of cargo here, we need it to be over here. That's you. And that is Ling Family Hauling, Red Wind Line Haul, and Covalex. So those are the 3 companies you would work for. Then there's courier. Now, this is also cargo delivery, but it would be smaller cargo. So I'm gonna assume this is your delivery missions, because you hire a courier for the smaller stuff. I also think it won't just be delivery missions. I think it'll be extremely important stuff. So when you're doing courier missions and you get to the higher levels, it'll be like the plans to the Death Star, kind of like that's the type of stuff that you'll be delivering. So don't think that the delivery missions are like, oh, I can just skip that because I'll just go straight to cargo. There'll be some unique stuff, I think, in there. And that's run by FTL and Red Wind Line Haul. Then you have the transporter. Now, this is different than cargo delivery, right? So cargo delivery, if you're a hauler, big cargo, or it could be small cargo, big cargo. It's all SCU. Then courier is, I think, delivery in smaller packages, so 1/8, you know, up to 1 SCU, and it could be a few SCU, depending on what's inside or whatever. But I think it's more the important stuff, like small amount but very important stuff. And then transporter is different because that is passenger delivery, that is vehicle delivery, that is data delivery. So passenger delivery, vehicle delivery, data delivery. So passenger delivery is Guide Star shuttles. This is your E1, your Crusader Spirit E1. This is your Genesis Starliner, like your ships that are meant to take a bunch of people, right? Now, you might be able to use some drop ships for this, which I think would be a very interesting scenario, right? Like I can imagine taking a Valkyrie to do some of these passenger delivery missions, but you might have some complaints because people want the more luxury experience when they're on passenger delivery. So, but you know, you'd be more protected if you're in a Valkyrie. Maybe you might be able to make that argument. And then vehicle delivery. So obviously C2 is going to excel at vehicle delivery. But then you have things like the Liberator, which like if it's that can deliver ships to you. So huge thing. And then maybe, you know, even the SRV, because the SRV can tow things to you. So maybe you get 2 or 3 SRVs to pull a large ship and boom, ship delivery. So if you were thinking that your SRV only had one purpose for its towing, vehicle delivery might end up being one of them. Maybe you need multiples, but there you have it. So data delivery, obviously that's your info running. So that's your MSR, you know, all you MSR, you'll be working for FTL, which I think stands for faster than light. That's the name of the company. Then they talked about the Imperial Sports Federation, the Racing Guild. This one was interesting because my immediate thought process was like, all right, I can turn my brain off because I'm not particularly interested in racing. However, stay tuned, even if you're not into racing, because this is why we go through this stuff a little bit by a little bit. Industrial athlete, that includes mining, cargo loading, salvaging, and repair. So I'm assuming it'll be how fast you can mine or how much can you mine under a set amount of time. Cargo loading will be how quickly can you load this cargo, maybe even how quickly can you load it, ship off, and then unload it at another destination or location. And then salvaging, how quickly can you salvage a hammerhead? Who will salvage it completely first where there's nothing left? And maybe both are in reclaimers or something like that. Or maybe it's a team of vultures, you know, if you're doing team gameplay for it. And then repair, how quickly can you repair this ship? It's completely broken. Here's all the components. You have to repair it from absolutely nothing to completely operational and 100% health. Here's all the stuff for it. Go. You know, and maybe if it's a small ship for one person and then it's a massive ship for a team of. So like it started to become interesting to me because I'm like, ooh, like this is like, you know, like the F1 formula type of thing where it's like you have the how quick can you refuel it, replace the wheels and stuff like that. It started to become really cool to me, and I was like, I could see myself spending some time in these things. Racing pilot. Now, this is more straightforward, right? You got mining racing, right? So like I said before, if you're doing mining as an industrial athlete, it might be how quickly can you eat this asteroid, or how quickly can you mine, or the first person that can get to 300 SCU of this or 100 SCU of this, right? Whereas if you're a racing pilot for mining, it might be how quickly can you get to the location and mine it and then come back, right? So like mining is just a part of the racing rather than being the entire event. Then there's competition racing or competitive racing, and then the Grand Prix. I don't know the difference between those two. And then death race, which I think would be the main one that I would be interested in, which is like you can shoot people as you go. As you're racing, you can like shoot at people and stuff. And I think it becomes like a little bit of dogfighting and racing, which I think would be very cool. Then there's parkour athlete. I have no idea what that's going to be, but I have some guess that it will have to do with like sliding, your ability to slide and then jump over things, and how quickly you can run the course. They did mention that there will be some stats that are unique to your character. So like the more you run, the better you'll get at running. The more you lift boxes with your hands, the stronger you'll get at lifting. So it may be that like that's what they're kind of building that up to. and that's run by Incredible Fun Adventures. I forgot the other ones. So Racing, Pilot, Mining is Cargo Olympics. All of the industrial athlete stuff was Cargo Olympics. Competitive race or comp race was a Murray Cup. Grand Prix was Murray Cup. Death Race was Arena Commander. So I don't know if Arena Commander is like an actual thing in the game or if they're just saying Arena Commander as a placeholder until they find out who it's going to be. Time Trial was Incredible Fun Adventures. Marksman. This is a cool one. Another cool one that I might be interested in. So they're going to have Star Marine Marksman, which I think is just going to be free for all, fight each other. And the more you do that, the better. That might be your death matches, your King of the Hills, stuff like that. And that'll be an Arena Commander. Then there's Nerf Arena, which I'm certain I want to take part in just because it's called Nerf Arena. I'm assuming it'll be like maybe you go in with fake weapons and you do the same thing you would do in Star Marine, except you do it for real. And it's your real stats of your character or something. I don't know. Maybe Star Marine is more like you use an avatar and everybody's on even ground. Whereas Nerf Arena is more like it's based on your character. And then target shooting, obviously going to be cool. Like I can imagine playing some duck hunt, but with my P8, like pow pow. That's really cool. And then of course hunting, which is huge because they just announced hunting on day one. So you can imagine how that making that a sport, like who's the first person that can bring out a Valacar and destroy it and bring it back, right? So now you have to find the Valacar, you have to drive it out with your vehicle, then you have to kill it. Like if your whole crew dies, now you got to restart. And what if the other crew doesn't die and it just takes them longer, right? So it could be a huge thing, like who's the quickest to do it, or it could be who can bring in the largest prey. Maybe all your stuff is weighed at the end. Like they can say, what's the biggest monster you killed? And you get certain points for killing certain monsters. It can get crazy. It can get crazy. And so I'm super excited for this. It made me excited for the racing guild in a way that I never intended. And then of course there's just a racing driver, which I think racing driver and racing pilot are two different. I think racing pilot will be your hover vehicles and maybe not even your hover vehicles. Maybe that'll be covered under driver, but I could see it at the very least being all the ships. Like if it's pilot, it's ships, and if it's driver, it's vehicles. And then maybe hub, and I think hover vehicles can fit into either one of those. So maybe the ones that count as snubs are covered under pilot, and the ones that don't count as snubs, those are covered under driver. Incredible Fun Adventures is for the Nerf Arena, the target shooting, and the hunting. And then for the racing driver, you have the same stuff as you have for a racing pilot, comp race, Grand Prix, and death race. And then it has time trial instead of mining. So Arena Commander for death race, Murray Cup for Grand Prix, Murray Cup for comp race, and then Wild Star Racing for time trial and Incredible Fun Adventure for time trial. So those are the companies you'll be working with. So death race, seems pretty obvious. You go around shooting at each other and you either are disqualified by, failing to be able to finish, getting blown up and dying, whatever, or being first. Obviously, if you win, maybe you don't get shot up at all. Grand Prix and then comp race, I don't know the difference between those two. I would assume that a Grand Prix is more like a tournament, and then I would think a comp race is more like a single race, but I don't know. And then time trial, like who can get the best time on a certain track. So very cool stuff. I was way more excited for that than I anticipated being. But here comes the one that I'm super interested in. Now they had, if you go back, Marksman was hunting, right? So maybe the version of hunting that I mentioned is for actually the Academy of Science Guild, because maybe that marksman hunting is like you get points for like hitting it in the head, or points for hitting it in the body or on the tail, or hunting it a certain way. And maybe you get more points based on how big it is. It's about how you bring the bounty home, how you bring the hunted thing home. Whereas the hunter is like, you have to capture this specific type of animal, or you have to collect this specific type of animal part, or you have to hunt this specific type of animal, as in you can kill it. Whereas capture, you have to capture it. Hunt, you can kill it or capture it, right? So, and all of this is done by High Point Wilderness Specialists. Never heard of them, but they're the ones who run it in the Science Guild. Science Guild, I think, is going to be where I spend most of my time. Then they had Explorer. They're finally telling you what Explorer gameplay is. Look, folks, we've been waiting a long time to find out what it means to be an Explorer. They are telling you. They're finally telling you what it is. Scan area, ran by the ICC. Location mapping, ICC. Deploy items, ICC. Scan objects, ICC, and find and collect, which is High Point Wilderness Specialist. That's what Explorer is. Scan, location, deploy items, scan objects, find and collect. Scan area, scan objects, location mapping, deploy items, find and collect. There's your Explorer. Is that what you want to do? You've been waiting to find out what an Explorer can do. Is that what you want to do, Explorer? Is that what you want to do? Is that your primary gameplay? You're going to go to an area and scan it. Maybe bring back map data or like resource data for that. Same thing with location mapping. You're trying to figure out, oh, this water is over here and this is over here. The mountains are over here. The mountain's this high, so on and so forth. Deploying items. Maybe they want you to go and put up a weather balloon or something so that they can just figure out what this planet is made of, because maybe they're going to terraform it. Maybe they want you to go and destroy the core of a planet by putting this massive bomb at the core of the planet. You never know. Now, it may be because that planet is going to collide with another planet or something like that, so you're saving humanity or something, right? You know, you never know. And then scan objects. Maybe they want you to go and there's these unique structures on this extremely hard to get to place on this planet, right? Maybe it's at like some other planet has its own version of Mount Everest, and you have to go there, bring the right gear, climb the mountain, and then you have to scan whatever's at the top of the mountain and then take that data back. And maybe you can't get to it by flying because it's massive, crazy storms and stuff that'll knock you out of the sky. Stuff like that. I could see that being really cool. In the Carrick trailer, you can actually see a person climbing, using climbing equipment and going up the side of a kind of mountain or something like that. So, and the Carrick is about exploration, right? So you can imagine that working. And then find and collect. That might be more to do with like the hunter thing, where it's like, we're gonna give you a resource that is not mineable. I'm assuming not mineable, because why else would they give you that? We're gonna give you something that we need, and it's most likely gonna come from an animal, but you're gonna have to either find the animal, like we don't know which animal it comes from, but we know what we need, and we're gonna give you some information to help you find it. Or we wanna know what animals are on this planet, and then you're gonna bring an animal back, but you're not bringing it back because we are going to use the parts of the animal. You're bringing it back because we just want to study it or something like that. So I think whatever find and collect is, I think that will pair with whatever hunting is. But the fact that they put it under Explorer is a little different. That makes me think that it might be more to deal with flora than fauna. So it might be more to deal with plants rather than animals. And then that would explain why it's not really under the hunter thing. So maybe they want you to just go find the plants, go find the chemical, so on and so forth. Stuff like that. Then there's the researcher. We only got one job: retrieve and research. Retrieve and research. There's no information on that whatsoever, but it's Rayari Incorporated, and they only have two things: chemical crafting and research, retrieve and research. So I feel like I'm going to be working as a researcher. I think I'll do a little bit of exploration. I think I'll do a little bit of researching, and then most of whatever else I do will be construction. And then I'll dabble a little bit in the search and rescue. I was interested when I saw the search and rescue was under the Academy of Science. I think that search and rescue is your medical stuff. Well, some of it. So rescue person, I think, is going to be rapid. That comes from Rapid Response. That's the company. And then firefighting is also Rapid Response. We don't have a firefighting ship. We also don't have a ship that has a lot of water. So we're either getting a firefighting ship or we're getting a firefighting vehicle. I'd guess that there's a firefighting ship coming, which will be very interesting. Very interesting. I would love to see how you implement a firefighting ship without giving it a secondary purpose, because I think any ship like that would need a secondary purpose, if you ask me. maybe it's a scouting ship and a firefighting ship. I can see that. But yeah, if Ben Curtis, if any of you all are watching, make sure if you do a firefighting ship, it has a secondary purpose, because I don't want to only have it just for firefighting. I would love to be able to do something secondarily with it. Maybe it's a medical ship and a firefighting ship. That would make sense, because a lot of firefighters are EMTs. There you go. There's your justification. Farming. So that is also under the Science Guild, and it'll either be animal or core, and I don't know what core means, so I'm gonna assume that the core is actual, like, I'm gonna assume that that's plants. I'm gonna assume it's either animals or plants, and maybe it's not as simple as plants, so that maybe that's why they didn't name it that, but it could just be like a typo. But they're both run by Terra Mills, so that's good. And then crafter is where it has food, so this is what makes me, crafter is a different thing, and it says food, so Terra Mills. But I'm thinking that when it says crafter, it's like making the final product with the food, not pulling the food out of the ground. Whereas core, I think, is actually pulling the food out of the ground, getting the base things that a crafter would use to make the food. So like crafting is more like, food crafting is more like shell, like you're going to be a mass production manufacturer for food, as in like, maybe you make baby carrots, right? Like, so a farmer actually pulls a full carrot out, gives it to you, you turn it into baby carrots and you sell it, right? That could be like a crafter. But they also have chemical, which I said is Rayari Inc. Food is Terra Mills. Chemical, which I'm assuming is people pulling quantanium out of the ground and other liquid metals, things like that, like other things that come in liquid form, and pulling those out and mixing them with whatever. I don't know, but I think that is going to be very interesting. Maybe there'll be the people who create fuel or something like that, or boost fuel or something. Maybe boost fuel will be made. Maybe it'll have its own little thing added to the game. I could see stuff like that. Then they switch to the council, which is the criminal guild, and they have the mercenary guild. So the criminal guild, the mercenary guild will be kind of diametrically opposed to each other. So the mercenary guild is like the lawful version, and then this is for the combat focused folks. The mercenary guild will be law and security, and then obviously the council will be the criminal stuff, right? So then they broke these down, and it was really cool the way that they broke them down. All right, so these are what you're going to be doing if you're very combat focused, right? You can be FPS combat focused, or you can be ship combat focused, or you can be vehicle combat focused. You can do all three. You can do whatever you want. So it's really cool the way that they did this. So Bounty Hunter was the first one. These are all run by the Bounty Hunters Guild. Investigate VIP, capture VIP, kill VIP. Now, let me give you versions of this James Bond style, right? So investigate VIP it's a person that we have interest in, but we cannot hurt them because maybe they're a diplomat or something like that. They're a foreign leader. Like, we can't hurt them, but we do need to know what they're doing on this particular day, because maybe they're doing something that affects our United Empire of Earth interests. Or it could just be the Mercenary Guild's interest, not necessarily the UEE. And then capture VIP. We don't want you to hurt them, but we do need you to grab them and move them somewhere. Maybe we need to question this person, and they're under protection by some foreign entity, and we don't want to start a war, so we just need you to capture them. And maybe you can kill people on that mission, maybe you can't, And then there's kill VIP, which is basically we're sending you to assassinate a leader or something, right? Now, the kill VIP could be a gang leader, right? Because this is law and security, so this is the lawful version. So it could be a gang leader, it could be somebody who hurt somebody else, whatever. But you kind of get the idea. Now, a lot of this stuff is going to be the same when it comes to the council. So pay attention to the things that are the same between the Mercenary Guild and the council, because a lot of this stuff is the exact same, except one, you're doing it unlawfully, and one, you're doing it lawfully. Soldier is the FPS version, right? So we talked about Bounty Hunter, right? You can use all types of vehicles, whatever. Soldier is FPS. They specifically say this is FPS Soldier. So Foxwell Enforcement, Citizens for Prosperity, Eckhart Security, and Intersect Defense Solutions. Woo! It's a lot. It's a lot for this one. All four of those do rescue VIP. So this would be somebody's trying to capture the VIP, somebody's trying to kill the VIP, and if those things are happening on the council side, so somebody is Somebody from the council is trying to capture or kill, and your job is to keep them from capturing, keep them from killing. All right. Then there is Eckhart Security, Intersect Defense Solutions. They both do defend VIP. So I'm assuming rescue VIP might actually be they're already captured and you have to free them. And maybe defend VIP is keep them from getting captured and keep them from being killed. So, okay, I said that a little backwards. So defend VIP is keep them from getting captured, keep them from getting killed. And rescue VIP is they already were captured. Now you got to go rescue them and keep them from getting killed. So that makes a little bit more sense. Then defend location. This is Foxwell Enforcement, Citizens for Prosperity, Eckhart Security, and Intersect Defense Solutions. So defend location is, it's like King of the Hill kind of, you gotta protect where you're protecting your flag, so to speak. There's a location, maybe it's like if the enemy gets a hold of this, they'll have access to anti-air on a place where they really shouldn't, and they'll be able to shoot down ships or something. So like you're just defending the location. It's pretty straightforward, but it's probably gonna be something important. Then patrol, this is Foxwell Enforcement, Citizens for Prosperity, and Intersect Defense Solutions. Patrol is, there's an area that we need you to keep the bad guys out of, like you need to make sure there's no bad guys hanging around this area, and that's what you do. You just fly around or drive around, but this says FPS, so I'm assuming it's drive around or walk around, and because this is all under soldier FPS. Then there's destroy objects. So this is Foxwell Enforcement, Citizens for Prosperity, Eckhart Security, and Intersect Defense Solutions. Destroy objects, as in maybe the enemy put up a weather balloon that is actually a spy satellite, and it looks like a weather balloon, but it really isn't. And they want you to go and knock that out of the sky because they're using it to investigate a VIP on their end, the council, right? And then there's kill VIP. Now, this is different from the other kill VIP. Now, bounty hunter kill VIP either means that they're in a vehicle, they're in a ship, or they're in something that you have to kill with a vehicle or a ship, right? FPS means you're on foot doing kill VIP, and they're on foot or in a vehicle or in a ship, and you have to kill them, right? But the idea is that it'll be possible to kill them in an FPS engagement, whereas the other ones, it might not be. That's Foxwell Enforcement, Citizens for Prosperity, Eckhart Security, Hawkrow. Now this is Hawkrow Agency, all right? That's the first time you see them, and you'll see why this is the first time you see them. And then Intersect Defense Solutions, those are all kill VIP. Then kill all. These I think will be a little bit rare on the lawful side, but it'll be like, we know that there's a bunch of terrorists that just blew up this thing, and we know that all the people inside this building are terrorists. Go in there, kill them all, right? That's going to be very rare on the lawful side. So if that's what you're looking for, you're probably going to want to join the council. But that's Foxwell Enforcement, Citizens for Prosperity, Eckhart Security, and Intersect Defense Solutions that do that one. And then the last one on the soldier FPS side is the Foxwell Enforcement, Citizens for Prosperity, Eckhart Security, Hawkrow Agency, and Intersect Defense Solutions. And it is recover items, right? Might be nuclear launch codes. It could be plutonium or something, uranium, something that they're going to use to build the Death Star. And that's what you got to do. You got to go and get the items and bring them back. And then all of these are Hawkrow agencies. So this lets you know, I think Hawkrow is the spy agency, so to speak, which is why the only one they have is the kill VIP in the other section. Well, kill VIP and recover items. I think if you want to be a spy, you join the Hawkrow agency. So they have location mapping. Maybe you're just going into a place and maybe this place refuses to sell them data or something. So you're going to go in and get the data yourself, which is location mapping and scanning an area. We already talked about scanning objects. It's just now you're doing it in an FPS way. So when I talked about those things in the other one, which I think was Explorer, those are going to be more so safe scanning of an area, safe location mapping, safe deploying items, as far as people not hunting you. But it might be the environment is dangerous, it might be the location is dangerous, it might be the item is dangerous, etc. Whereas this is specifically first person, so it's not involving ship, not involving a vehicle. It's first person spying. right? So scan the area, scan objects. Disable objects is a new one. So that one's only in this one. You disable an object, you are going and you are trying to shut down their satellite, shut down their ability to do anti-air, whatever, right? And maybe that's your only thing. And maybe you can't be seen when you do it, so that it looks like you have to make it look like it was an accident, like like the thing failed rather than it looking like somebody sabotaged it. Then extract objects, right? There might be something you have to go and get. Like certain things you have to go in and scan it, but you don't take it with you. And then there's other things you might have to go and get. Like we said, nuclear launch codes, things like that, where it's like you have to go in there and grab that and take it out, but you can't be seen, or maybe you can be seen. Maybe they don't care as long as you get it out, you know? But my guess is this is gonna be spy work, so it's gonna be, a lot of it's gonna be like, you gotta do it without getting detected. Investigative, right? Maybe you just get a badge, put it on, and they just want you to go find out what happened. And then access data. This might be some like corporate espionage type stuff, right? But in a legal way, right? Like, you know, maybe you work for the UEE and they hire Hawkrow agency to go find out if this company is poisoning people. So you have to go in and access their proprietary data and get the information and make it out without being seen. So very cool stuff. I am super excited to see what they do with this stuff. I am super excited because all of it sounds super fun. Most of these gameplay loops I have seen and I'm like, oh my God, I want to try that. And that's how you know that they're good, because I am generally like, I just want to stay in my area over here, but now I'm like, there's so many of these I want to try. Then there's combat pilot. They're telling you what you're going to be doing. You're going to be a pilot, not a driver. So that means you're either going to be in a snub or you're going to be in a capital ship, all the way up to capital ship. Now, this is the last one for this one. And this is the last one for the entire group, right? So this is still the Mercenary Guild Law and Security, right? This one's combat pilot. So again, they're telling you this isn't FPS stuff. Same thing with the scan objects, scan area, defend location, patrol, right? So scan objects is Foxwell Enforcement, scan areas, Foxwell Enforcement, Citizen for Prosperity, Intersect Defense Solutions, defend locations, Foxwell Enforcement, Citizen for Prosperity, North Rock, first time we've heard that one, Intersect Defense Solutions, patrol, Foxwell Enforcement, Citizen for Prosperity, Intersect Defense Solutions, defend VIP, Foxwell Enforcement, Citizen for Prosperity, Intersect Defense Solutions. Rescue VIP is Foxwell Enforcement. Destroy objects, Foxwell Enforcement, Citizen for Prosperity, North Rock Service Group. Then kill all, which is Foxwell Enforcement, Citizen for Prosperity, North Rock, Intersect Defense Solutions. Kill VIP, Foxwell Enforcement, Citizen for Prosperity, North Rock, Intersect Defense Solutions. Recover item, Foxwell Enforcement, Citizen for Prosperity, and North Rock. So let me go over a little bit. I've already talked about every single one of those, but I just want to get the difference when you're doing it as a pilot. This means you don't necessarily have to get out of your vehicle, which is a big deal. FPS, you have to get out of your vehicle. Whether it's the soldier FPS or it's the operative FPS, you got to get out of your vehicle. When you're doing the Explorer stuff, it may be that you can stay in your vehicle. It may be that you can't. So it's completely different with this one, because this one, you're most likely going to be able to stay in your vehicle and not leave your vehicle for all of the following. Scanning an object, it may just be you have to get close enough, and they know that when they say combat pilot, that's another difference, right? When you're doing exploration and you're doing the same stuff, there may be zero combat, there may be a little combat, but there's not going to be a lot, because that would make it a combat pilot thing, not an explorer pilot thing. So you're generally going to be doing that in safer areas, safer as far as ability to fight others or need to fight others, not necessarily safer as in safer in general, because you might be having environmental hazards and things like that, toxicity, weather issues. So scan area. It may be that you just have to go and, there's an area that maybe a tank is going to be driving through later, and they want you to see whether they want to see what the coverage of the area is. Defend location. The people are coming and they're going to try to destroy this area or capture this area, and you have to defend it from a ship. Now, I could see this being like asteroid bases or stuff like that, space stations, stuff like that. Patrol. Now, this is the other version of patrol. Now, and I want to make this very clear, when you're patrolling as a soldier, it's a little different, because you're patrolling as a soldier, you're doing that either on foot or on maybe a wheeled vehicle, not a snub ship. It would be something less than a snub ship, but maybe it could be all the way up to a tank as far as wheeled or tracked vehicles. So that's what makes it different. Whereas if you're doing it as a combat pilot patrol, now you have to be in a snub ship or higher. That's the difference. Defending a VIP, you're doing it from a ship. Rescuing a VIP, you're doing it from a ship. Destroying objects, you're shooting it with a ship, or at least from a ship. And then kill all, you're killing a bunch of ships, not necessarily killing a bunch of like individuals. And then kill VIP, you're killing a VIP that's in a ship. And then recover item, you're recovering something that you can get from your ship, where it doesn't require you to leave your ship, so to speak. Or if it does, it's for a very short amount of time. It could be that you're actually stealing, what you're recovering is the ship. Think there was a mission that you don't actually complete, but it's like a story element in Cyberpunk, where you have to go and like steal this car, and it ends up being like this whole thing. But think of it that way. It's like they send you to go steal the car or steal the ship, like it's a proprietary ship or something like that, and you have to go and get it. But you have to fight your way in, but maybe once you get in, that's all the fighting you have to do. So who knows? Then, that's a lot. All right, now we're switching over to the council. So the council is a little bit different. So the council, this is where you have the violent criminal FPS. So this is replacing the soldier. Same stuff as the soldier with one specific difference. There's only one thing that's different, but everything else is pretty much the same with a violent criminal and a soldier. What you're sent to do is the same, except when you're a violent criminal, it's a little bit on the nose if you ask me. But when you're a violent criminal, you're being sent to do it for the council. If you're a soldier, you're being sent to do it for the government or some agency that has the rights to do it. So when you're doing Rescue VIP, that's Headhunters, Dark Side Rovers, Drop Kings, Otoni Syndicate. Generally, whoever hires you, you're going to be going in to get one of their VIPs who's in jail. I can see this being a lot of jail missions. You're going to get somebody out of jail, or get somebody who was captured and on their way to jail, or get somebody who's being transferred between jails. Like whatever it is, I can see you going to free these people, right? Defend location. So this is like, hey, this other gang, they're coming, they're going to try to take our base. Same people as Rescue VIP, except add the Dead Saints, because they also do defend location. So they have some beef with some other agency, or they have some beef with the cops. The cops are coming to do a raid. You're going to defend that location. Defend VIP. It's not about the location this time. Sometimes it's our boss is in there and we got to defend the boss, right? And that's Headhunters, Darkside Rovers, Drop Kings, Otoni Syndicate. Patrol. The patrol thing is gonna be a little bit different, because you can do a lot different stuff if you're doing patrol for a violent criminal organization. Your patrol looks a lot different than the lawful, because you can just shoot anything moving. Anything that's not, like for instance, if you are a headhunter and you're doing headhunters patrol, and you see Dark Side Rovers, Drop Kings, UEE, a mining ship, you can shoot whatever the hell you want, and that is going to be different. That is going to be different, a massively different thing than if you're doing like regular lawful patrol. And so I could see that being a little bit more fun for the pirates. But yeah, I can see that being a thing for them. Destroy objects. So the destroy object thing is, I think, going to be a little bit different, because it might be that you can be a little bit more reckless with this than you can when you're a soldier. It may be that you can just drop a bomb on the whole thing, destroy the whole building, right? And then maybe you kill all the people inside, but that's your Unabomber way of handling the situation. So it could be, you're the in-game person who does that, and that's what you're known for. But maybe you fail the mission because they didn't want that much attention. Like maybe if you killed 100 people in the game, like they don't want that type of attention, and you just gave them way too much attention, and now the headhunters are being looked at as terrorists instead of just being looked at as like a gang. And that's a much higher level of heat that you're bringing onto them. So it could be that you do have to handle it a certain way without bringing too much attention. And so that's Headhunters, Darkside Rovers, and Drop Kings. Then there's kill all, which again, I think will be a lot easier to do if you're part of the council, because I don't think they'll have the same restrictions of don't kill. Whereas if you do it as a soldier or an operative, I think that would be different. And again, that's headhunters, dark side rovers, drop kings. Then you have kill VIP. Same thing, headhunters, dark side rovers, drop kings. Now we're entering Vaughn. And then I'm gonna tell you, I think Vaughn is like Vought from The Boys. If you watch The Boys, you know what I'm talking about. And then Otoni Syndicate. And I'll talk about Vaughn a little bit later, because the only thing they were interested in here was kill VIP. So we'll talk a little bit more about Vaughn and what I think they're about. And the Otoni Syndicate, because if you notice, they only had, Otoni Syndicate also has recover item, but they have recover item, kill VIP, defend VIP, defend location, rescue VIP. Those are the only things they have in the violent criminal area. And then there's the crafter trade. This is the illegal crafter trade. And the only thing in there was chemical. So I'm assuming that that's, you know, DRUs, UGSs, and that's what the Dead Saints do. I'm assuming that's their primary business. So if that's what you're interested in, you would of course join the Dead Saints in the game. And then I think the headhunters are like, I think the headhunters are the fighting org, the fighting, say, I guess, faction or company. I guess you have to say faction or gang. Yeah, I think they're the ones that fight. That's why they do most of the violent criminal stuff. You don't really see them in a whole lot of other stuff. I think they're in the ship violent criminal. Remember, we're talking right now when we talked about the violent criminal first person. And one of the other things that you do in I skipped arson. Arson is headhunters, dark side rovers, and drop kings. That's in the violent criminal first person. That's the unique thing. So soldiers won't be obviously doing arson, but on the violent criminal side, where you're technically a soldier as well, in the first person, you would be doing arson, so setting things on fire, and which explains why they have the firefighter thing. If you go back to, I think it was search and rescue underneath the Science Guild, that's why you have a firefighter, because you'll have people just going around and their whole goal in life is to set fires and be arsonists. So there you have it. And then there was recover item. That was also in the FPS. So that's, you know, gonna be go and get the thing. Maybe it's a printing press for money, whatever. Like, you can imagine a whole lot of things being in there. Then you have the chemical. Like I said, I think that's going to be drugs mostly, and that's with the Dead Saints. And then you have the operative. Now, on this one, it doesn't say FPS, so I'm assuming the operative on maybe the operative for the gangs doesn't have to be as specific as far as whether they do it FPS style or not, but their goals are the same. This is all Bit Zeros and Otoni Syndicate. Bit Zeros, this is the only time you see Bit Zeros, I think. I don't think they do anything else except this, except the operative work. So I would say what you'll probably see is that Bit Zeros is directly opposed to the Hawkrow agency, and that's like the bad version, right? Bit Zeros sounds like that actually sounds like a org centered around hacking, because bit and zeros, like ones and zeros, kinda. It kind of makes sense to me, but I'm an IT nerd, so maybe. But yeah, access data, we talked about investigation, we talked about, these are all things that are gonna be different when you're doing it as a criminal org, right? Because access data, you're probably going in to steal it, you know. And Otoni Syndicate, I think, is like the mob. I think they're gonna be closer to like the mob. That's why I brought them up earlier. I think, you know, they're gonna want you to be undercover. They don't want people to know that they're criminals, even though everybody kind of knows. They're like the triads, kind of. No, you know, don't hurt me, triads. You know, I don't want no smoke, triads. I'm just saying, I'm just saying what people think. I don't, you know, it's not necessarily me. You know what I'm saying? But you know, the Otoni Syndicate, I think, is kind of like the more organized crime. Whereas I think the Bit Zeros is more like the hacker, chaotic, you know, criminal thing. And then scan area, you know, maybe it's an area you're not supposed to be. Scan object, maybe it's some, you know, something that you're not supposed to know even exists that the government has. The location mapping. Maybe somebody's planning a hit or something like that, or planning a bank robbery or something, or some type of robbery, and they need the maps of the location. Deploy objects, that could be a spy satellite. Disable objects, that could be disable the anti-air so we can fly in and drop a bomb. Extract items. Woo! Extract items could be a lot of things. You could be stealing nuclear codes, right? The same way I said you could be protecting nuclear codes on the other side, you could be stealing the nuclear codes on this side. All right, then there is violent criminal ship. So these are all the things you'll be able to do. Now remember, we had soldier FPS, and then we had combat pilot. Combat pilot is all doing this same stuff from your ship, right? And so this is their version of the council's version of combat pilot, and they just call it violent criminal ship rather than, and the other one is violent criminal FPS. If you are the type of person that's like, I want to do the criminal stuff, the pirate stuff, but I don't want to be getting out of my ship a lot, this is for you. So Kill VIP, that's Vaughn. Again, we haven't talked much about them. So I think the Ohtoni Syndicate, Nova Riders, and Vaughn are going to be the organized crime. And I think Vaughn and Ohtoni Syndicate are going to be kind of opposed to each other a little bit, just because they're the ones that are organized crime, right? Then there's Kill VIP. So of course it could be, kill somebody in one of the other ones. Headhunters is very violent, so we know they're going to be a part of all of these. Vaughn is only a part of the Kill VIP. They're not a part of the rest. The rest are Headhunters, Horizon, and Drop Kings. Horizon, I think this is the first time we hear about Horizon as well. Horizon is all about doing stuff from your ship, it looks like. Headhunters are about violence in general. And it looks like Drop Kings are also about violence in general, because they are on the same stuff as the Headhunters. It doesn't seem like those two have a difference, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Drop Kings and the Headhunters are the main two beefing. And maybe Horizon dips his head in there a little bit. But then you have Kill All, of course. It would be a lot easier on the violent criminal side. Destroy objects. Now, again, because you might be able to have a little bit more leeway about destroying, collateral damage, I could see those being a little bit easier. Patrolling being a little easier. I talked about defend VIP, defend location. You're defending the boss, so to speak. And then rescue VIP, I think, is all going to be centered around somebody going to jail, coming from jail, or being transported to a different jail. Stuff like that. Or people who are recently arrested. And then there's the organized criminal stuff. So this is bribing and intimidation. Nova Riders and Ohtoni Syndicate are the only two that do that, which makes me think Vaughn is probably the more reserved, like, we don't want you to know we're doing it. And Ohtoni Syndicate is probably a little bit more out there with it. And then investigate VIP, they want to know whatever this person's doing. I can imagine Vaughn being like, hey, go in and look at those Ohtoni guys and see what's going on, and then capture VIP. Whereas Ohtoni is just going to intimidate or bribe. And so that's Vaughn doing investigate VIP and Vaughn being the only people that do capture VIP. I think they're a little bit more behind the scenes, like Vought. Vought was a little bit more public in the boys, but like they're I don't know. I just feel like they got that name from Vought. I don't know why, but maybe not. Anyway, let me keep it moving, because this video is getting really long anyway, but it's okay, because that's the type of video this is supposed to be. Smuggling. Why did I say smuggling? I just created a new word, smuggling. Anyway, when you're a smuggler, this is all Dead Saints, so I'm assuming it's all, drug moving, which I'm a little nonplussed by. I think there's other things you should be able to smuggle, but maybe there are other things, and this is just like what they're saying is okay, because it says data delivery, right? But the data delivery could just be like the blueprints for drugs or something. So like, who knows? But anyway, cargo delivery. So you can imagine that that's very large amounts of drugs. Vehicle delivery. Now this one's a little different. This could be chop shop stuff, right? So like maybe the drugs are the drugs are hidden in the panels, and you have to deliver the vehicle because they're gonna get the drugs out using some special machine. Then passenger delivery. Now, passenger delivery for a gang, What do you think that looks like? It's probably to drop people off to go do some bad stuff. So think of yourself as a getaway driver. Um, or maybe you're the get to it driver, like you have to drop them off in a way where they're not seen, stealthily. Shout out to the Prowler owners that are gonna really have fun with that one. And then data delivery, so it could be, schematics for drug making machine or something like that you're not really supposed to have. And then pirate and ship jacker. This is what the Nova Riders are all about. So we mentioned the Nova Riders before doing the bribe and intimidate thing, but they're the pirates of this whole thing. They want you to go get somebody's cargo, bring it back. Go interdict a target and take them out, or take their stuff, or take money from them and bring it back. And then recover items. They want you to go in, get the cool stuff off their ship, bring it back. And the headhunters actually take part in that recover items thing as well, but they don't take part in the recover cargo or interdict target thing. So the Nova Riders are going to be the people that have those ships that pull you out of Quantum. So if you're getting pulled out of Quantum, you should already expect it to be either a Nova Rider or somebody who works for Nova Riders. Unless, of course, obviously people are gonna, PvP players are gonna do their own thing too. And then they had a little bit of racing in here, which surprised me. The council does a little bit of racing because they have race fixing and fraud. The Otoni Syndicate does race fixing and fraud. I have to say, this is the only thing that I've seen that made me want to do pirate things. Is like, I want to go in and fix a race. I just think that would be such a fun gameplay thing to do. But no, I don't think I'll really be participating in the pirate side. Yeah, and that was pretty much all of the ones that they told us about. I'm sure there will be more, and there will be even more jobs and stuff, because we didn't even have like a whole medical thing. So again, like I said, I think 2025 will be the year of death of a spaceman. Then yeah, they kind of zoomed out a little bit, and they were talking about the main story, right? They said the main story is going to be a narrative experience. It's going to be NPC driven. It'll be where you can kind of, it's like a at your pace thing where you can get on the train and get off the train. The train's gonna keep moving with or without you, right? So like, you don't have to worry about like, oh, if I don't do this on this day, something wrong is gonna happen. Nope, the train is gonna go without you, and you just can be a part of the story or not. If you complete that story, you get the citizenship. Your citizens get benefits like land ownership anywhere in the UEE. Civilians gotta get bent. Basically, you can't own land everywhere if you're a civilian. If you're a citizen, you'll be able to land ownership or own land. Then the story will take you through all 5 systems, get you kind of familiar with everything. Think of it as kind of an onboarding and tutorial kind of process for people who don't necessarily play Squadron 42 but jump straight into Star Citizen. They could just get on the rails of the train and learn things slowly as they go through the main story, or they can just go out and do whatever they want. And then there will be location stories, so it won't just be a main story. Each location will be part of its own story as well. The location specifically will have stories. I want to think of it kind of like, and I'm hoping they do it this way, I guess, would be, I don't know if people play the Harry Potter, the Hogwarts Legacy game. The Hogwarts Legacy kind of had this thing where you can go to a location and there was missions specific to that location. I mean, other games have done it too. But yeah, I like that idea. And I also think of Mass Effect when I think of this, because one of the things that was really cool about Mass Effect is when you land at all of your landing zones, there's always missions, right? And they were all specific to that station or whatever the issue was. And I hope these choices matter, And then there's a story for each system like the Nick system is still dealing with the Vandals, so maybe that's where their story is going to go. Stanton is trying to deal with the corporate overlords of the Stanton system, and they're trying to overthrow them or something, whatever, Maybe the sons are trying to overthrow the fathers, and so on and so forth. Then they talked about core progression. Moving away from the story part, they start talking about core progression. They're saying now you have all these different ways. Your guild reputation matters. There's economy, right? Your money's gonna matter. They talked about Star Sim, powered by the dynamic economy. Now, we didn't get Tony Zurovich here, I don't know what's going on with that. I'm not going to really comment too much about it, but we do know that this is the stuff that kind of, we'll say this is the house that Tony Zurovich built just out of respect. So Star Sim powered by dynamic economy. They didn't talk about it a lot, so my guess is it's a little bit further behind than they would like it to be. And then they said credits must flow into this economy and out. So they do want to counter inflation. They don't want it to just be like the players have all the money, the NPCs have none, or the NPCs have all the money and the players have none. They want all of that stuff to matter. So whenever you see the economy stuff, that's when you should be like, oh, okay, this is stuff that I can affect, or maybe I don't affect as much, depending on what's necessary for the game. Then they talked about taxes. I was very, very interested when they popped up taxes on the screen. I was like, wow, there's an inheritance tax. So anytime, they've talked about Death of a Spaceman enough to where we know that when you die in the game, like you meet your true death, not to bring True Blood into this, but like essentially when your character dies, they don't have any more lives left, they can't regenerate anymore or whatever, your stuff will go down to your inheritant. Your inheritant gets taxed, so that means you're going to lose money, lose something that you're supposed to have, and maybe you have to pay that up front, or maybe the inheritant person has to pay it. I don't know. So I would guess you have to pay it up front in order to set an inheritance, and because it just makes sense that way. Or maybe they just take a certain percentage of your stuff, and you can choose how much of your stuff they take to fulfill the inheritance tax, whatever it is. So I don't know how that'll work, but we'll see. Security tax for planetary shield tech. So if you end up getting planetary shield tech, we'll talk about how that works later. But if you end up getting it, you do have to pay taxes associated with it. Then they talked about insurance. So they talked about medical insurance. You will have to have medical insurance to use the hospital imprint thing, which is good. I think that makes sense. Like, you shouldn't just be getting that for free. Well, we could talk about whether you should be getting it for free. That's a whole different conversation. And then ship insurance. Ship insurance is a little bit, complicated now. So this is the way, and Jared has a post. If I remember, I'll link it down below, but Jared has a post where he kind of explains it in detail. I'm not going to go as deep in detail as he did because I don't think it's necessary. But if you really are confused after I say what I'm saying, then just go and visit Jared's post. Losing your ship should matter. That's very important. Rich Tyler said this part. He said over 90% of claims are for ships that haven't been destroyed. So they introduced warranty and insurance are two different things. Two different things. Warranty is here, insurance is over here. Warranty is here, insurance is over here. I just want to make that very clear. All right, moving on. Insurance by itself only pays out the value of the shipping credits. This is the difference. If you only have insurance, you're only going to get credits back. You will not get your ship back. You will not get your ship back if you only have insurance. If you have insurance and a warranty, you will get your ship back. If you only have insurance, you will only get the value of your shipping credits, and that includes the wear of the ship. So if it's a really old ship, you're not going to get the full value of the ship. If you have insurance and a warranty, you will get the chassis back. If you have level 1, you will get the chassis and components back. If you have level 2, you will get the chassis, components, and decor back. If you have a level 3, if you have insurance, you will just get credits back for all of those things. This is insurance level 1, insurance level 2, insurance level 3. So there's insurance level 1 is you get money back for your chassis. Insurance level 2, you get money back, credits back for your chassis and components. And insurance level 3, you get credits for your chassis, components, and decor. That's insurance though, that is not warranty. If you want to get the physical things back, you have to have a warranty. So how do you get a warranty? This is how you get a warranty, folks. Well, first, it gives you the ship back at level 1, shipping components at level 2, ship components and decor at level 3. That's what the warranty is, plus insurance, okay? How do you get a warranty? All ships bought on the pledge store have a permanent warranty. That means no matter what type of insurance you get, you will have a permanent warranty. So that means no matter what type of ship you get, you will always have you will always get the ship back and not the credits. You will always get the ship back and not the credits. So at the very least, you have a permanent level 1 warranty. That's the difference now between buying a ship in game and buying a ship outside of game. If you want a permanent warranty, you have to buy it with real money. That just changed the way that people buy ships. Now, when I talk about buying ships, I will say, if you want the warranty, you have to spend the money, which is a very weird thing to have to say now, but that is the truth now. We know what we get now, okay? Now, I'm not done yet. So if you already started typing, I'm not done yet, all right? Just because you have a permanent warranty, remember, warranty and insurance, 2 different things. Just because you have a permanent warranty does not mean you have permanent insurance. Insurance plus warranty is what allows you to get your ship back. You cannot just have a warranty on its own. You have to have insurance and warranty. You can have insurance on its own, but you cannot have a warranty on its own. You have to have an insurance plus warranty to actually get your ship back. So let's say you bought a 6-month warranty, you bought a 6-month insurance ship. That means your insurance will expire after 6 months. You can buy more in game, but your insurance will expire after 6 months. At which point you will still have your warranty, you just won't have insurance. So when you lose your ship, it's not gone forever because you purchased it with real money, but you will probably have to pay the full price of that ship to get it back in game, the full price of it. You will not be able to get it at some cheaper price. You will have to pay the full price, but you will get the full ship back, and it will be your ship at whatever level of warranty you have. But it looks like we will get, according to Jared, it looks like we will get level 1 permanent warranty for purchasing a ship outside of the game. Permanent warranty, at the very least, we will always be able to get our chassis back, even if we have to pay full in-game price for it. So I want to make that very clear. That is what we're guaranteed from buying a ship outside the game. That now gives you a reason to buy your entire fleet outside the game if you want a permanent warranty. But you don't have to. We're going to talk about why you don't have to. All ships bought on the pledge store have a permanent warranty. It does not include permanent insurance. Very clear about that. Insurance only lasts as long as you bought it for. So if you got 6 months insurance, you still have that 6 months insurance, but you have a permanent level 1 warranty. If you have 1 year insurance, you still have 1 year of insurance, but you have a permanent warranty. That doesn't go away even after your insurance expires. 24 months, you only get 24 months of insurance, but your permanent warranty is still there. And then 10 years, you still have 10 years of insurance, but that can expire. You still have a permanent warranty. And then of course there's LTI. You will never run out of insurance, and of course you will never run out of your warranty. So at the very least, no matter what happens, if you have LTI on a ship, you will be able to get your chassis back without paying full. Now, LTI is still level 1. So you're only getting, and your permanent warranty is level 1. So you're only getting whatever comes with level 1, okay? Just to be very clear, all right? If you have level 1, LTI insurance, and you only have level 1 permanent warranty, you're only getting your chassis back every time. You still have reason in game to seek out higher insurance levels. That should pretty much explain that part. As long as you have insurance, you get the ship back, not credits. If you have level 1, ship back, just the chassis. If you have level 2, you get the chassis and the components. If you have level 3, you get chassis, components, and decor. Then they talked about transferable warranties. These are the in-game earnable warranties. Now, earnable in-game for ships that only have insurance and no warranty. So If you already have a warranty, you don't need to put a warranty on it. This is specifically mentioned to be earned for completing the main story. So you will get a warranty just for completing the main story. So there's a reason to complete the main story right there if you're planning on purchasing most of your ships in game. These apply to any ship you own, and there is a cooldown for transferring to another ship. Now, you can get a warranty. It doesn't say if they'll be lifetime or whatever, but yeah, we'll see what those end up being. But yeah, that's the in-game version of the warranty and insurance system. So of course you just pay for insurance, but warranties, you actually have to earn them. So if you want to get your chassis back in game now, it's going to be kind of rep walled, so to speak. So for instance, let's say we have a person who bought, and this is one of the ships I'll use because I talked about certain ships I think are worth earning in game, and then certain ships I think are worth purchasing outside of game. Nova Tank is one of those. The Nova Tank, in order to build one in game, you'll need some type of military blueprint, and then you'll have to build a certain amount of something underneath it in order to be able to use that blueprint and use its research and all this stuff. On top of that, you won't have insurance for it once you do build it, but maybe you can just keep building them because now you have the ability to build them. But you won't have insurance on that thing. And if you decorate it on the inside, if you put special weapons on it or in it, you won't get any of that stuff back. So I use this as an example, right? Somebody bought an LTI Nova Tank. They will always get their tank back. They won't get the value of a tank, which the in-game value of a tank is minor anyway, so maybe you don't care about having to repay that. But maybe it's that you can't buy them in-game. You might not be able to buy a Nova Tank in-game. And this is what I mentioned. I said they could be rep walled, but now they could be gameplay walled. As in, you can't buy one, but you can build one. And maybe you, in order to buy one, you have to join the council and do it illegally. And maybe you don't want to be an illegal criminal character. There's a cooldown for transferring these to another ship. You can transfer them, but like maybe that first transfer is like very easy, but after that, it probably gets hard. And depending on what ship you want to transfer it to, there may be limitations. So for instance, if you have a ship with like an Aurora with a warranty on it, right? You probably won't be able to transfer that to a Pioneer, right? Like, and just be like, hey, Pioneer, here's a warranty, right? So there'll probably be limitations, and I would guess that there will be size limitations. So getting a warranty for a larger ship might be a lot harder than getting one for like a smaller ship or for a vehicle. So be prepared for those things. I don't want you all to get caught off guard with that. Now let's talk about claim timers, because they did talk about this a little bit. So claim timers is a little different. So this is proportional to crafting time. So claim timers will be longer. It used to be like you could get your ship back in 7 minutes. Now it might be 20 minutes because it'll be based on how long it takes to craft one. However, I expect claim timers to be a little bit less than craft timers because they should already have these kind of workflows worked out to where you get it back faster than it would be if you just crafted it and got a new one. Otherwise, why would people do insurance? They would just spend the money on crafting. But besides it being cheaper, of course. Proportional to crafting time. So like, let's say if the actual crafting time for it at, like the regular level, let's say, let's say whatever level your vehicle is at. So let's say a tier 3 vehicle is what you have, but you only have a tier 3 chassis, and all you're trying to get back is the chassis. In order to craft a tier 3 Zeus, let's say it takes 48 minutes generally. That means in order to get your ship back, you're gonna have to wait, let's say 40 minutes to get it back, because we want it to be less time than it actually takes to craft it, right? So you get it back 8 minutes faster than it takes to craft it. However, if you do your claim timer and you expedite it, right, then maybe it drops to 20 minutes, which is still a long time. And you might be like, it would be faster if I just used a free shuttle ship to go back and get my ship rather than claiming it. So they created a free shuttle ship. Now you'll be able to go and get your vehicle without having to worry about asking somebody for a ride to go get it, which I think is a great system, because I do think they should try to keep people to keeping their own ships. Like, keep your ship. Like, don't let your ship die. Keep your ship, go get it, take care of it. And then small ships will be immediately available. So there's no more timers for small ships, which now they're giving people a reason to own a small ship. Like for all the people who are like, I'm only gonna own large ships. I was one of those people, but then I end up getting the F7A, so I end up getting a small ship anyway. So it was at that point I was like, the flood doors are open. I won't own a lot of small ships, but I will own some small ships. Now you can get those when those will be immediately available. So that'll be the bonus to small ships, is we want to give people a reason to have small ships, and it's boom, claim timers automatic. You automatically get it back. We can do those instantly. And I think that's going to be really cool. That'll be the main reason to get a small ship rather than a medium and higher. And then large and capital ships will take way long to get. So you should not be taking those out unless you know they can be well defended and so on and so forth. Which, good, makes sense, right? And we know that you won't be able to craft your own capital ships using like an Excel thing. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Cyclical gameplay loops. So they talked about this. You cannot, this is a huge one, folks, huge one. And this is why I just kind of mentioned it with the Nova tank. You cannot purchase military ships in game. They are rep locked. They are rep locked. They are rep locked. And I said this in my Nova tank video, and there were so many people that like commented on it, and they were like, and this was before CitizenCon. I did that video before CitizenCon. So count that as a prediction. You will not be able to purchase military ships in game. You will not be able to purchase military vehicles in game unless you meet very specific conditions. Like I said, they will be rep locked. How do you meet those conditions? Well, it says you have to be part of the Mercenaries Guild to get a military blueprint. So if you want to build it, you have to go do a whole bunch of mercenary missions. What if you're not a mercenary? Now, if you happen to be a mercenary, you might already have all this stuff. But we all know that you can't get blueprints from other people. So just because one of your friends has done a bunch of mercenary missions doesn't mean you have access to it. Now, if your friend also happens to be able to build these stuff, maybe you can get your friend to come over to your base building stuff and build you one. Cool, you have a way out. But a lot of people won't. A lot of people will have to go get that thing themselves. Maybe you're part of an org and your org has a person who can do this stuff, but maybe they don't have the prerequisite skill. So this is changing the game, people. This is changing the game. This is your reason to buy military ships outside of the game. Now, I think all ships will eventually have this. I think there will be rep gated everything like, and I don't think you'll be able to just go and buy a capital ship. I think it'll be rep gated. You'll have to get up to a certain level in order to have access to a capital ship store, so to speak. Maybe there's one or two that'll be available. Like I could see maybe the 890 jump being available, but maybe the 890 jump is like a Porsche dealer in real life where you have to go through like an interview process to get one. So this is the stuff that I was talking about, people. This is the reason why you have people buying $10,000+ worth of ships. They don't want to do all that. They don't want to have to necessarily go through all the rep gates that are being put up in order to purchase their ship. They just want to be able to use it on day 1, day 2, day 3, week 1, week 2, week 3, right? So if you don't have the money, they're still giving you a way to get to these ships. But I think now, at the very least, we can see why certain people buy their ships rather than say they're going to earn them in game. And it's certainly changing my philosophy. There's certain ships that I've been saying I wanted to earn in game that I might end up now purchasing. But at the same time, it's not that many. I can only think of 2, actually. I do think one thing that I will guarantee is that I'm going to buy my 5 vehicles that I want to be untouchable, the ones that I want everything covered by insurance, which I had not intended to buy all of those, maybe 2 or 3 of those, but now I'm gonna buy all 5. So there you have it. They convinced me to spend money on the game with a limitation, which may or may not be a good thing or a bad thing. But I kind of was already on the level of like, I'll probably do that anyway. So it's not like it's more like they pushed me over I was already sitting on the wall Humpty Dumpty style and they just pushed me, you know. Anyway, back to the cyclical gameplay loops. I just needed to pause on that because I think a lot of people are going to miss that, and they're going to be like, it's going to be a surprise to them. So if you're thinking about purchasing things in game, just know they have already announced military ships will be rep locked. I'm sure other ships will be too. So think about the ships that'll end up being rep locked. I don't think you're going to be able to just go out and get a Hull E. I don't think you'll be able to just go out and get a Orion mining ship. I don't think you'll be able to just go out and get a Nova tank. I don't think you'll be able to just go out and get an Idris. I think these things will be massively rep locked, as in you have to grind for days, weeks, months even to get access to purchase these things in game. So that's the way I think it's gonna work. They didn't say exactly how long it will be, but come on. You know that they don't want a million of those things flying around, so it's gonna be a pretty hefty wait. For instance, I don't mind doing that to get my Idris because I have a Polaris, I have a Perseus, so I don't mind doing a little bit of rep gaming, you know, to get my Idris, because I do want to have still reasons to earn things in the game. Same thing with the Javelin. I don't mind rep running to get my version of that. There's a lot of things that I don't mind doing in the game to earn, right? But there's other things where I'm like, no, I'm not gonna go through every single rep channel to get every single one of my ships. No. But I respect people who want to do that. Like, that's why you play the game. I'm down for it, but I just want you to be thinking about it and choosing to do that, not being surprised. All right, moving on. Use a prospector. This is the way that they said it. They were trying to describe a gameplay loop. You use a prospector to craft a Hornet Mark II. That's your goal. That's your boom. That's your North Star. I'm trying to use a prospector, and my goal is to have a Hornet Mark II at the end of it. So first, you use your prospector to mine for Shubin Interstellar and the United Resource Workers Guild. You use that. You earn your blueprint for the fabrication hangar, because you do need a fabrication hangar to build it, or you need to purchase a ship to do it. But remember, we said we just want to use the prospector to do it. So we get the prospector, we get the blueprint for the fabrication hangar, right? So we mine long enough with the prospector to where we get the fabrication hangar blueprint. Then we purchase land where we want to build the fabrication hangar. We could pay somebody else to do that, to build it, or we can just use our I don't think it could fit on, but like we, you know, maybe the land is right next to one of the bases, and we just push our little grav cart out, and we build our fabrication hangar, right? Now, maybe we bought the land, we don't want to build the fabrication hangar until we actually get the Mark II Hornet blueprint in hand. They said you have to earn the Mark II Hornet blueprint from the Mercenary Guild. So now I have to go and buy a Mustang Delta. So I have to go mine some more until I can afford a Mustang Delta, right? And then I go get a Mustang Delta, and now I'm gonna do some mercenary combat pilot missions, because that's the specific one where you know you're gonna get the Mark II Hornet blueprint. And maybe you gotta chew through some other blueprints that you don't want necessarily to get to that one. And who knows how long it's gonna take you to actually get it. But you know at the end you will get it. So now let's say it took you a week, right? And I don't know if that's lucky or not, but let's say it took you a week of 4 hours of gameplay every day, and now you've spent maybe, let's say, 28 hours earning this blueprint for the Hornet Mark II. Now you need resources to craft the Hornet Mark II. So now you have to hop back in your prospector, go to different places, and find all the resources to craft your Hornet Mark II. You can do it in a prospector. It will take you longer, but you can do it in a prospector, and you can do it long enough to where you get all of the resources you need to build your Hornet Mark II. Then you go to that land you purchased, you build your fabrication hangar. Mind you, you need things to build that too. You can't just build a fabrication hangar out of nothing, so you might have to go and do some more mining in your prospector to build your fabrication hangar. So let's say you have enough for the fabrication hangar, you go to your place, you build the fabrication hangar, you immediately say, build me a Hornet, you wait until it's done, and now you have your Hornet Mark II, and all you had to do was buy a prospector, buy a Mustang Delta, And then the rest you could do all with earning or mining with your ore. That's how you would do it. That's how you go from a person who only owns a prospector to owning now a prospector, a little bit of land, a fabrication hangar, a Mustang Delta, and a Hornet Mark II. That is the single player, boom. That's your gameplay loop right there. You find your North Star, you determine what your North Star is, you can single player the heck out of it. You don't have to depend on anybody else. You can just do it. And so maybe you're thinking bigger, right? Maybe you want to build an Idris, and that's your North Star. It's gonna take you longer to get to that point, but you can do it as a single player. Now, we're gonna talk about even more ways that you can do it to where you don't necessarily have to just do it in a Prospector or in a Mustang Delta, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But they were only showing that to say, here's your reasons for doing things. You're doing it for credits. You're doing it for reputation. You're doing it for resources. You're doing it for blueprints. It's going to be one of those reasons or multiples of those reasons why you're doing a certain thing. Now, credits are not going to be as important as the other three things. However, they're still going to be important because you still need credits to purchase things. If you're getting reputation, that's going to unlock certain things, like the ability to get certain things that you may not have got otherwise. You know, you need Mercenary rep, for instance, to get the Hornet Mark II. So maybe that's level 4. You know you got to get to level 4 because they tell you, you know, maybe you only know, they only reveal what you get for the first 4 or 5 levels, and then you don't even know what you get at level 6. But once you get to level 1, they reveal what you get at level 6, and so on and so forth. Or maybe you have a friend who's already reached that level and you could just talk to them about what you get. And then resources, right? Like there's certain resources. Maybe they only have a certain, maybe a high level of Hadanite can only be gotten from a UEE protected mining location. And you don't have access to that until you do a bunch of mining missions. And then you can go to that area and they'll give you access. And now you can mine this very rare and very expensive resource. Blueprints, you get those for completing missions. So it's a very cool system. This is like, it's all about getting the things. It's sweet, sweet loot. It's the thing we always talk about. Whether your loot is credits, your loot is reputation, your loot is resources, your loot is blueprints, you get to decide which one you want to focus on most. Mine will be resources and blueprints, but the resources and blueprints will make me credits. I don't particularly care about reputation unless it's going to get me a blueprint or it's going to get me access to resources. I don't care if it's going to get me credits because the blueprints and resources will get me credits. So that's kind of my hierarchy, right? It'll be blueprints, then resources, then credits, or then reputation, then credits. So, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of my hierarchy, but it's so cool to finally have a way to think about the game in a different way. So now I have like all these little data things that I'm going to be creating over the next few weeks just to like get my gameplay ready for like what I'm going to be doing. Because I've already kind of written out my entire plan for Star Citizen, but now this changes things and this is a little bit more final. So I don't mind going through and redoing all of that, knowing where the final North Star is, so to speak. Then they talked about in-game content. So they talked about PvE. They will have an open world, right? The open world, you will get missions, you will get group events, you will get server-wide events. These are the things we already kind of get. We already get open world missions, we already get open world group missions, we already get server-wide events. They're going to introduce instanced content, right? Instanced content is only you and only your party and only your group and only your org and only your alliance org. Like y'all will be the only people that are part of that event. Nobody else can interfere. That is what an instanced event is. So don't think of it as like, well, yeah, I want to do that, but I don't want, you know, Johnny Griefer over here to come in and mess me up. So instance content, very important to the game. It's PvE. This will be fleet battles. They will get you military blueprints for prototypes, military only blueprints, like I was just saying before, strategy-based missions. Some of them will be, it won't just be boom, boom, pew, pew, blow up everything up. Some of them will require you to be on first person mode. Like some of it'll be, you know, first person weapon stuff, and then maybe first person other things. And then you can direct your fleet from your holo globe. It's another thing that they kind of just slipped in there. You will be able to stand at a holo globe and direct your fleet. So any ship with a holo globe has officially become a place where you can do command and control. So if you were thinking like, oh, I want to have this ship, but it doesn't have a holo globe, so I'm gonna get this other ship, you were right. Get the ships with the holo globes. Those are the ones where you can do command and control from. Very cool. That was a very cool thing that I saw that was in there. Very cool thing. I am super excited for what that UI is gonna look like. So Hector, if you're watching, here's looking at you. I know you're gonna get that thing right. Hit me up if you want some ideas. You know, free ideas. I'm giving. I mean, you could offer me a contract. I'll take a contract. Then dynamic content. So this is interesting because after they talked about instance content, they talked about dynamic content. Dynamic content is the stuff that nobody plans. It's what the game is telling you needs to happen based on the input of players and NPCs. So this uses Star Sim. This is the stuff like I was talking about with Tony Z. This is that type of stuff. So it tracks player activity and then it spawns things dynamically based on player activity and what's going on with NPCs and what the universe needs. Let me give you an example. They didn't give the biggest example that I thought they would give, but imagine, actually we could kind of use Tony Z's example a little bit, but imagine that there's a Hadanite shortage in the entire Stanton system, right? So that's going to mean NPCs are going to start bringing Hadanite from outside of the system to inside of the system. Or there will be like an asteroid that spawns that's surrounding, you know, that's in an asteroid belt somewhere. And somebody, a NPC will find that asteroid and they will say, hey, there's Hadanite in this asteroid, which will create a massive influx of people going to get Hadanite because the first people to get that Hadanite and sell it are going to make the most money. So now you got maybe an Orion is the first one to arrive and eats the entire asteroid, right? So now nobody else gets the money, right? And maybe they were able to escape before anybody even knew that they ate the entire asteroid. Or maybe they didn't. Maybe people were like, oh, you got the last asteroid, and now they're attacking that Orion, which they never would. And now the Orion is calling people in to defend it. And it's like this great, it'll be like the Great Hadanite War of 2096 or something like that. Like, I don't know, like 2996 or whatever. Like, whatever it is, like you can imagine that whole thing just like being dynamic because a player did this or a player did that, right? Or maybe everybody wants to Hadanite and an Orion didn't come, but maybe the first person there gets ganked by the second person that came. And then it just a cycle of people keep getting ganked because there are other people are trying to get it. Maybe an org shows up and they come full-fledged and they're just beating back everybody. And so they're the ones who actually end up getting the most of the resource. Maybe another org shows up and it's a full-on fleet battle. And while they're fleet battling, all the other people are eating up the resource. So very cool stuff. You can go on forever with the types of things that can happen, but very cool. It's the thing that brought me to Star Citizen and made me actually spend money. So I'm super excited for the dynamic content. Then they talked about PvP. And this is one of my favorite things that they did in day 2. They really hammered it down. They were like, look, if you like PvE, here's some stuff. If you like PvP, here's some stuff. If you only like one, you can stay away from the others. You don't have to participate in all of the other stuff. PvP, so this is high security areas, fast response times, escalating force things that'll happen, comm array dependent, pirates can shut them down, right? Then there's ownership. If you're part of the PvP, you have to worry about ownership. Now, when we're talking about ownership, we're normally talking about a pirate stealing some things, right? Ships are automatically assigned to the players that purchase them. High value items are automatically assigned to the players that purchase them. Stolen ships are marked as stolen or in the Moby or via insurance, and they have a dead man switch. So The ship will stop working after a set amount of time. Now, pirates can still salvage it even if that dead man switches went off and they can no longer move it. They can still tow it to wherever they want to take it. They can dismantle it for resources in a fabrication hangar. This is something that's huge. This is something that's huge. That's how chop shops will operate, people. That is the pirate version of a fabrication hangar. You can take a ship, put it inside, take all the resources from that ship. So it could be extremely hard to find resources. You put it in a fabrication hangar, get your resources from stolen ships. Now, doesn't have to be a stolen ship. It could be a claimed ship, right? Imagine taking a tow truck, going out, finding a dilapidated, destroyed ship, bringing that back to your fabrication hangar, boom, chopping it up. Now you have gold, and in this particular system, maybe gold is super rare, but this particular ship has a ton of it. Like it's a very unique way to come across rare minables. So very big deal. ... Can dismantle resources. Can dismantle ships for resources. Can dismantle vehicles for resources. Can dismantle things for resources. Maybe you can even do it with buildings. I have this idea that you can salvage buildings. I think you'll still be able to do that. Anyway, moving on. You can purchase a title deed from the council if you've stolen a ship, and that disables the dead man switch and switches it to your name. So that's something that you'll have to be a part of the council, and you'll have to have high enough rep with them in order to purchase a title deed. My guess, title deed for small ships, easy to get. Title deed for medium ships, you got to do a little bit of work. Title deed for large ships, hard to get. Title deed for subcapitals, extremely hard to get. Title deed for capital ships, you basically have to be doing council missions for a year. Like, it's going to be so hard to get those that it's going to be nigh impossible. That's going to be the hardest title deed to get, and you will, unless you're working as an org, you probably just won't get it. I don't think stealing capital ships will be very easy, because I think they're going to want people to earn those. So it's going to be very difficult to get a title deed for a capital ship that you've stolen. So it's most likely that, and because remember, you have to do it before the dead man switch goes off. So normally, if you're stealing a capital ship, it'll be very difficult to steal. They can trigger the dead man switch before they even get killed on the ship. Remember, they can do that. So you might already be donezo by the time you actually defeat them and soft death the ship and take the ship. And then once that dead man switch is triggered, you have to then take it to somewhere where you can actually have the deed switched, which will take time. So it's going to be very difficult to do. That's all I'm saying. It's not impossible, but it'll be difficult to do. And I think it should be that way. You cannot use primary jump titles unless you have already got the title deed. So if you just stole a ship and you are flying it around, you need to find those transient jump tunnels that they talked about. You have to use those. You will not be able to use primary jump tunnels, because if you do, you will be arrested. So unless you got a whole fleet with you, prepare to be using a lot of transient jump tunnels if you steal ships. I don't think ship stealing is going to end up being worth it unless it's larger ships, like large ships and above. I don't think stealing a small ship will be worth it unless you just already have a whole chop shop workflow to go. And then again, like, you're going to be scanned everywhere you go. So obviously, if you do this stuff in Pyro, you don't have to worry about this stuff. But yeah, if you go to other systems, that's what it will be. Another PvP thing. So they talked about how things will be assigned to you, stealing ships and stealing items. Base rating. There will be player bases. You will be able to do combined arms assault. So whether it's taking out ground shields, just doing a ground assault where you're worried about personnel and ground vehicles. And then there'll be like, you just need to burn it down. Maybe you just want that area because it's really good with resources. So you just come through, drop an A2 bomb, and boom. But you can't just drop a Moab anymore. You'll have to do some work first before you can just drop that bomb, which means disabling shields and stuff like that. That's when they brought up the station warfare. Now, you, as an org, you can get planetary shield tech for a week. Now, there's Seal is the company that operates the bases. There are shield bases. They have SEAL shield bases. There's 3 on the ground. Then there's SEAL shield stations. There's 3 around the planet. And then there's the SEAL shields relay. There's 1 near the planet. And then there's the SEAL shield core. In order to get full planetary shield tech where nobody can affect anything that you do for a week, they can't destroy your base or do anything to your base without getting destroyed, you have to assault all of those things, and that's how you will get your shield tokens. You get tokens by assaulting those locations and depositing resources. So you get the bases, you get the stations, you hit the relay, then you hit the core, all kind of building your way up, and then you get shield tech for a week. Like a full in reality week is how long you get the shield tech for, and then you got to redo it all. Now, because you already own those things, it might be easier to keep it than it is to get it. But that gives orgs a reason to go against other orgs. But I could see that being very interesting for large orgs. Like you have like 2 of the largest orgs in the game. I can see them just building an alliance and just wrecking everybody who tries to get a planetary shield. So they're gonna have to do some balancing with that, that's all. But there's only gonna be 1,000 players per server, and it's probably not gonna be all the largest orgs on that same server. So there you have it. Then you get the SEAL tokens for holding them, right? So if I go to the ground base and I hold it, the longer I hold it, the longer I get SEAL tokens. Same thing with the stations. I get more SEAL tokens for holding a station, even more for holding a relay, and if I'm holding the core, I'm getting them like crazy. So each one of those will be harder to hold based on how large it is, right? Ground bases will be much easier to hold than the relays, so to speak. So then they talked about the highest bid for planetary shield tech. It's not so much that you just get it. You have to, I think you turn in your SEAL tokens to get the planetary shield tech, and they automatically take the highest bid. So not every org can have a shield at the same time, but multiple orgs can have shields at the same time. And the same org can have multiple shields at the same time. So that is going to be very interesting. That's giving orgs a whole loop of gameplay. I think I'm going to like that, because while orgs are worrying about planetary shield tech, that allows us other players to like focus on other things. And most of the reason why I said I'm mostly going to be creating outposts is because I don't want to own things that people want to steal from. I just want to own things where people can like go buy, purchase, sell, little outposts most people aren't trying to steal from. Like if you rob my outpost, you're not going to get anything of value because the value is in the ground, or the value is on a ship already being transferred, or the value is very minimal because it's about a network of locations rather than it being about a Fort Knox that holds all the guns and holds all the money and holds all the ships. I don't really particularly want that. My very high sec areas, those will be the places where I can kind of store things and not worry too much about it, because they already have planetary shield tech. So that's going to be really cool. Player space stations. This was the big one. This is the ultimate goal for an org. And I think between orgs trying to get the shield tech and orgs trying to get the space stations and build their own capital ships, that will keep them plenty busy. So all the people who are worried about all these orgs just flying around and ganking people, no. Orgs have a whole different goal now. They will be trying to build space stations, build bases, and all this stuff so they can start doing what space stations can do. So they said the space stations are going to be the home among the stars. The base of operations for system org activities will require vast quantities of resources and materials. So the idea is that you build your ground bases, you protect them with planetary shield tech as much as possible so you can continue to build them up and up and up to the point where they are overflowing with resources, to the point where you can start building a space station. Now, it'll require a very large time investment. It starts with the supply bay. You need a pioneer to construct the supply bay, which you will be eventually able to purchase in game It'll be rep locked. Like I'm telling you, everything will be rep locked. But I'm sure orgs will already have somebody who owns one. Most big orgs, at least. And so let's say you own 4 ground bases on Hurston. They're all doing extremely well, to the point where you just got resources laying around and you're ended up giving stuff away. That's the part where it's time to build a space station. So you get your Pioneer, you go up, you start constructing the supply bay, which is that's all the Pioneer can build. It can't build an entire space station. It can build the supply bay. The supply bay can then build the rest of the space station. And so you keep filling that supply bay up with supplies, depending on which supplies it needs. You just keep bringing, I'm talking about whole E's, whole D's, all bringing supplies to this thing. It should be able to keep like 20,000, 40,000 SCU of cargo. And then once it's filled up with all the supplies it needs, then it can start constructing the space station. My guess is while it's constructing the space station, that will take time and you'll have to defend it while it's constructing the space station in order for your space station to actually be built. So it's gonna be rough. And then once your space station is built, I think space stations will also be able to be destroyed at some point, but it'll be extremely hard. But I also think it'll require you to go inside and press buttons and stuff. So you'll have to take it over first before you can destroy it, so on and so forth. That will be, with automated construction drones. That's what the supply bay will use to construct the rest of it. It'll use automated construction drones. The supply bay will then integrate with the constructed space station when it's done. The staging area needs topping up with materials. So let's say you brought 20,000 SCU to that thing. It'll build part of it, and you're gonna bring 20,000 more SCU of materials, and then it'll build part of it, and then you bring 20,000 more until your space station is done. And you will need an efficient logistic chain because you do not want it just sitting and waiting for more materials. You want it to complete as quick as possible, because until it is a space station, it is defenseless without you defending it. So you want it to be a space station as quick as possible, so then it will have its own defenses, because once you actually have it built as a space station, it does have its own defenses. You can set those up. Whew, it has a lot of stuff. So when you're done with the supply bay, the first thing that it will be, the core station will be the first thing that is built. It will have core functionality. It will have a bridge where you can do more construction, and that'll have power and water management. It'll have water cooling. You'll be able to set permissions from there. You'll have a radar station to track outside activity outside of your space station, a terminal to access logs of who visited and what they did while they were there. You'll have a central transit system to get around your space station. It'll connect through the entire station. Each level will have a dedicated lobby area, so you don't have to worry about people walking on and immediately being in a very important area. They will have a lobby area that they'll have to travel through, which allows you to set permissions per door. One-to-one layout, no more magic elevators. Every elevator you step in will take you to an exact place. Lower decks, that's where it will have lower decks with the engineering, maintenance, hangar decks. These are all things that can be in the lower decks. And then it will come with a large hangar, come with 2 docking collars. It has spaces to where you can add 2 medium hangars. And then there's this station hangar enhanced logistics. So if you have a hangar, it is not going to work the same way as a base. It'll have multiple freight elevators available, empty modules for open vehicle parking, entries and exits. Now, I don't know what they mean by vehicle parking because it's a space station. So maybe we'll talk about that part later. I do actually kind of know where it gets the vehicle parking from. Entries and exits, because maybe you're riding your vehicle around the space station. Entries and exits, like you can control those, and then it'll have the observation deck, which is like a master control of freight elevators and vehicle elevators, so you can stop them, right? So this is really good for if people are assaulting your base and they're like, let's just hop in this elevator and go, and then you can just boop, that freight elevator stuck. So you have to unalive yourselves, or we'll just stand from the ground and we'll shoot a railgun at it until you all die inside the elevator. It's gonna be crazy. And then they talked about advanced functionality. So we're talking about the interior first. This has bulkhead connectors. So these come from tier 1 to tier 3. They determine how big a room is. Rooms can be constructed however you want. You can have mess halls, infirmaries. You can have habitation, generator rooms, you can have shops. Then there's the exterior. This will have attachment points. So interior is bulkhead connectors, exterior is attachment points. These are minor hard points, at least 15 of them. You have minor hard points and major hard points. You will have at least 15 minor hard points. This is from what I counted, and at least 2 major hard points. This is just from what I counted on screen. There's probably more, but from what I saw, there was at least 15 minor hard points and at least 2 major hard points. With the minor hard points, you'll be able to customize those with modules. So this would be your scanners, you can maybe resource collection, defense, shields, turrets, like all of those things, right? Then major hard points, those will be add wings to the station, right? So now you have a cargo wing. Maybe you want to increase your overall inventory capacity with the cargo wing. Then maybe a refinery wing or a hangar wing so more ships can land. And these are all constructed, these are all connected with struts. And so it's a little bit different. So modules for the minor hard points, it's like attached, and then you have struts that kind of push out for your major hard points. Then there's customization. You can earn tints for your space station, change the complete color of your space station or maybe just a wing. Then you can apply decals for org logos and text. You can have a unique, there's going to be unique expansions. So this is on top of your major hard points. So your attachment points are minor hard points, at least 15 of those. Major hard points, you'll have at least 2 of those. I'm guessing that there'll be like 4 of the major hard points though, considering all the things that they mentioned. And then you'll have unique extensions, and because the reason I think there'll be at least 4 of the major hard points is because there's 2 unique extensions, one at the top and one at the bottom. The top one is for a crow's nest. That's the only one that they mentioned. There might be more, but it said a crow's nest, so I'm assuming that's like your personal home, but I think you can do whatever you want with it. I would say it's probably gonna be the most protected place in your org. So whatever it is that's up there should probably be the most important thing you have. But then again, people will be able to see it and be like, we want whatever's in there. So, you know, it's kind of like, you know, do you hide it among your other stuff or do you put it in a place where everybody's like, that's where we're trying to get to? And then there'll be one on the bottom, and this is where you can build a flight deck. And there's 3 major hard points added when you build this, and it is for your quick reaction forces. This is where, if somebody's attacking you, this is where you want everybody to fly out of. It'll kind of look like the Javelin tunnel, or not Javelin, the Idris tunnel, where you can store all your ships inside like a pocket carrier, and then everything goes whoa, 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 and they all fly out. That's what I kind of think you're dealing with this. And then it has its own observation deck. And then they said there's some Easter eggs in the video. I was gonna go through and just try to pick stuff out, but I didn't see any in that one. The only thing I saw was this, what looks like a 1 SCU cargo trolley. So maybe they have that, maybe they don't. But it looked like to me there was a 1 SCU cargo trolley. That's the only thing that I could find with the Easter egg. So if you have some, drop those down in the comments. And then they said there was kind of this defensive fortress thing to all of your space stations. You'll have automatic defenses, blast doors, turrets, which are either anti-vehicle or anti-personnel. You'll be able to slow people down. Maybe you can't stop the elevator, but you can slow the elevator down so your people can get into place. And then there'll be like an offensive staging area where you could like just have everything ready. So like if people are coming, all your people can man the battle stations, so to speak. So it's gonna be really cool. Then, they talked about what else you can put into the unique slot. You can build capital ships and super capital ships like the Bingle. So, what does that mean? I'm creating super capital ships. I don't know if they actually call them that. I'm gonna say capital ships are like your Javelin, Idris, etc., Kraken. Super capitals are the Bingle because they're like, what, 3 times the size of the Javelin? So like, I'm gonna call them super capitals. And then I think you might have, I think super capital is probably the biggest size, I would say, and outside of a king ship. So I'm gonna say that a king ship is the only thing bigger than a super capital. And that's only because we know that the Vanduul have a king ship. So maybe you only get a king ship if you're if you don't have your own planets and maybe you all live amongst the fleet. So that's why they have a kingship. I don't know. But anyway, you can build capital ships in your space stations. You can build super capital ships like the Bengal. That is what most orgs are going to be trying to do. They're going to be trying to get that planetary shield tech to make their base building better, and then they will be jumping over to space stations, trying to build space stations and make those as good as humanly possible so that they can get their Bengals and whatever. And they're going to want to build as many of those as possible because they're going to want to give whoever comes to fight them a whole bunch of problems, because we're going to be in Bengals and the rest of you will be in an Idris or a Javelin or whatever, and we got Bengals over here. So yeah, it's going to be a race for the first Bengal and everything, and I'm hoping that while everybody's racing for those Bengals, I can just slide over here, build my bases, buy up a bunch of land, so that people still got to come to me for whatever they got to come to me as. Because we just want to be billionaire ninjas over here. We're not, you know, Bengals are cool and all that. Maybe we'll get one, maybe we won't. But that's not why we're here. We're here to be billionaire ninjas. Anyway, you can connect multiple space stations, which is going to be even cooler because you can imagine some of the larger orgs constructing multiple space stations at the same time and then taking shifts to defend it and so on and so forth. But you can also do alliances. Remember that you can have orgs that do alliances. So I can imagine orgs being like, hey, why don't we team up? And then we both can, you know, share resources and everything until we get those first 2 space stations. And then once we both have a space station and we both are set, my space station will be over here, yours will be over there, and then we can go back to just being our own, you know, orgs, and maybe we can cancel the alliance. It'll just be a temporary alliance. Or maybe you keep the alliance, whatever, and you say, we are the 2 orgs that own this planet, and anybody who comes over here, they got to deal with us. It's crazy to think about. It's really cool to think about, but it's something I think that we're gonna see in the game. Then there's the 3 types of players all in one universe. They wanted to build a game that was connected with all the PvE players, all the non-combat players, and all the PvP players, right? Some people want to do combat, but only PvE. Some people want to do combat only against other players. Some people want to do no combat at all. They just want to mine, build, etc. And they wanted to connect all 3 in a way where everybody was having fun, and it looks like they've done so. This is already the most ambitious game ever made, and I think what they've just announced is the type of game I want Star Citizen to be. I am super hype after you know, CitizenCon. They were definitely holding a lot back to release at CitizenCon. And you know, I'm generally optimistic about the game in general, but they did what I think they needed to do at this CitizenCon. They announced a date for Squadron 42, so the whole "it's a scam" thing, that community has an expiration date of 2026, because once it's released that way, waiting for Star Citizen is just a foregone conclusion. I think we'll see Star Citizen 1.0 in 2027, because I think they'll want all of 2026 to figure out Squadron 42, make sure its release is good, and they're going to want to put some time in between the Squadron 42 launch and the Star Citizen launch. So I'm thinking end of 2027, early 2028 for Star Citizen 1.0 to be officially out. Yeah, so I think we can start to get optimistic, people, about release dates. I think we will have our full Star Citizen experience within 4 to 5 years, which is a long time. Do not get me wrong, that is still a very long time, especially if we're on what? If you've been following since 2012, you are on year 12. That'll put you at year 16. It'll take 16 years for you to get to your dream, right? That is a very long time to wait. You know, a person could have been 18 when they originally followed in 2012, and they've had to wait almost their entire lifetime to see the game come to fruition. They're 34 years old now, right? Like, that is, they probably have kids that are 16 years old, you know? So like, it's crazy to think of. But I was very impressed with CitizenCon. I still think there's a lot of questions to be answered, which I'm hoping they start to do at all the ISCs that we will see in the future. And there's a lot of ships that they still need to fill in gaps with. I was a little perturbed that we didn't see a bigger refinery ship or another capital ship, but they still got some time, you know, to do that stuff. Maybe they're trying to slow down on capital ships. You know, I was hoping for an Anvil Capital. I thought that would be really cool, or a Drake Corvette. But I think we kind of got it. I don't know. I got to look up what all these words mean, Corvette and Capital and all that stuff. I kind of thought I knew what they meant, but now that Star Citizen is making these things and calling them words, and I get a bunch of people who are like, technically it's not a Corvette, technically it's a frigate and so on. And I'm like, hey man, I'm just going by what they say and like what it should be, you know. And now we got super capitals and kingships and so anyway, it was a very fun experience to go to CitizenCon. I had so much fun. I plan on going to every single CitizenCon from here on out, as long as I'm doing this content thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We had our day 1, we had our day 2, and now I can, yeah, that's all I got. I will see you in the next one. Peace.